doesn't make any sense to be okay in the NBA. You want to either be really good or really bad. And
And they're the '80s bullets, just
yeah,
hanging in the middle.
yeah, it doesn't do you any good to, the Jazz. The Jazz are always in the middle. Doesn't do you any good, right?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the iCoaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on this Wind Up Wednesday edition, in segment one, everything about the NBA. In segment two, we're going to talk about college athletics, different aspects of it on the men's side, and then in segment three, we're going to hit you on the women's side, and I have my favorite administrator here, Robert Abney, to help us through this. So let's get started. Eastern Conference, Cleveland, Boston, Knicks, Magic, Bucks, and Hawks. And on the outside looking in, Heat, Pacers, Bulls, and Pistons. Hottest teams right now, Cavs, Knicks, Pacers, and Pistons. In the Western Conference, shout out to Mike King, OKC, Memphis, Houston, Dallas, Denver, and the Clippers. On the outside looking in, the Lakers, Minnesota, San Antonio, and Golden State. Hottest teams right now, shocking, OKC and Houston. But I've got to get you going on our story of the week. Is they are who we thought they were. College football season is ending. NFL playoffs are here. Now we're starting to watch the NBA and analyze it. And Robert, let me talk about Phoenix first and get your reactions to it. So Phoenix has got a problem. They're old, and they really don't have a lot of young legs to get them over. You've got Bradley Beal, who is now coming off the bench, and he is one of two players with a no trade deal. You got Kevin Durant, who is in the twilight. Devin Booker should be playing well. How are you dealing with the underperformance of Phoenix right now? If you're management, what are we doing to try to get better?
I that it's tough for them because, like you said, they're old. They got old legs, and I mean, I've always loved Kevin Durant as a player. He is one of the, I mean, transcendental talents of our time, in my opinion. The way he could score, um, but yeah, he's getting old. He's getting old, and trying to play back to backs or 3 games in 4 days with old legs, man, that gets tough. And I mean, you put Beal on the bench, and I mean, to his credit, he didn't publicly, at least, you know, pout or fight or be a jerk about it. But that matters to those guys. That matters. And um, he has a no trade clause, but that doesn't mean he can't be traded. And
Yeah.
at some point, the Suns are going to have to say, okay, at some point, they're going to have to decide, when do we cut bait, and when do we see if we can do some things to help us get a little bit younger, because it and I think Mike King has said this, it doesn't make any sense to be okay in the NBA. You want to either be really good or really bad. And
And they're the '80s bullets, just
yeah,
hanging in the middle.
yeah, it doesn't do you any good to, the Jazz. The Jazz are always in the middle. Doesn't do you any good, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, they're going to have to decide how they want to address that.
Okay. All right. So then the next underperforming team, the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion Williams makes his return after a 27 game absence. Comes in, does the whoop de doop, spin a Rooney, big dunk, and didn't even play the next game. And then New Orleans coach Willie Green said Zion's been late. It's not an isolated incident. And they sat him out for a game. Robert, if you're New Orleans and I love Zion and I'm telling franchise to shut up now, what are we doing? what are we doing?
Well, I mean, the guy's made of glass. I mean, come on, you can't. It's hard to take him off the shelf and put him out there and let him do stuff. You know, because I mean he again phenomenally talented, but he can't stay healthy, and he looked good when he came back, but that historically weight is an issue. When weight is an issue, legs are an issue, and he had a pulled hamstring, and he's hurt his knee, and he's hurt ankles, and I mean they're paying him a ton of money and they're not getting anything from him, and he is not staying in New Orleans. Well, let's just call it what it is. He is not staying in New Orleans. Um, yeah, I don't know if you can trade it. I mean, you're not gonna get what you invested for him. Can you get enough to make it worth your while? I would say, I would argue yes, because what have you really gotten from him anyway? Because he's always injured and he doesn't play. So what have you gotten?
He can't stay, especially now that his behavior has caused a suspension or something. Yeah, it's time to go. So we're going to close this segment talking about Miami. So Pat Riley made the media rounds, talked to Dan Le Batard and a couple other people, and Jimmy Butler has been posting on social media. It's challenging the coach right now. Robert, how does this end? How does this end in your opinion?
Badly. Badly. It ends badly. I mean, Miami's gonna find they'll find someone who will take the trade, because because Jimmy Butler is a good player who can help a team who's trying to get to the next level, who can help them get there. Um, you have to understand what you're getting when you take Jimmy Butler. But I think if he had a chance to win a championship, he could manage to behave himself for the rest of the year, because he's already indicated that he's not taking the obscene amount of money that he has for a player option. I don't know what he's thinking he's going to get in exchange. I mean, what's his player option, like 50 million
50 million, something
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, he's not getting a first of all, he's 35. He's not getting a 4-year contract. He's getting 2 years, maybe an option for a third year. And he's not getting $50 million. He's not getting $50 million total on his next contract, because he's not that kind of guy anymore. Teams aren't going to give him the money. He says he doesn't want to stay on that contract. So that is going to impact his trade value. But I mean, he will not see him on the floor again for Miami. I don't think. I think they will find a way to extend his suspension or put him on administratively. I don't even know what you call it, but
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see him on the floor again.
So it's been reported that Pat Riley actually did a 10-page rebuttal document to the NBAPA, and as I like to say, I have the best and worst doctorate. It's in organizational leadership with an emphasis in organizational development. So I am sure the paperwork is impeccable. So I'm sure whatever the NBAPA is upset about, to the letter of the contract, I'm sure the Heat has done business the right way in terms of that. But
because
uh-huh.
because it's really, really stupid to intentionally violate the negotiated agreement, isn't
it? 100%. Now, I'm going to be contrary. I think Pat Riley's going to make him play. Now, what the Heat should have done, hindsight, is do the little deals in the summer and whatever, and start their year and have that one press conference in the beginning and keep it moving. But because they dragged it out, I don't feel bad for them either. But I think Riles is going to make a play and then say to the NBAPA, all right, he ain't playing. Because that's just the kind of guy Riles is. He doesn't care. And it's really bad to go against somebody doesn't care. So, with that being said, in segment 2, we're going to talk college basketball on the men's side. We'll be right back on the Hot Coach Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful antidotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 2, let's go men's college basketball. So net rankings: Auburn, Duke, Tennessee, Houston and Florida, mid-majors: Gonzaga, Utah State, Memphis, San Diego State, and St. Mary's. Some teams to watch: Florida, thanks for the money line win last week. Michigan, Texas Tech, tough game against Iowa State. Tough one. Good game, though, and Baylor. But our story of the week are underperforming teams. Just like we spoke in the first segment about underperforming NBA teams, Robert, I got to talk about Rutgers. They got two guys who are magnificent and projected lottery picks, but they're hovering around 500 team overall and under 500 in the Big Ten. How are you dealing with that when you have talent, but I guess nothing else around it? Any thoughts about Rutgers?
I saw them probably 2 weeks ago. I can't remember who they were playing. Those two guys are really good. After that, the talent drop off is pretty significant. And I mean, I guess I know how that happens. I mean, that you, for whatever reason, you got to get guys there. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not an East Coast guy, but there is not a lot of hoops history at Rutgers.
Not a lot.
So, you're not getting people to come to Rutgers because, hey, we've won 17 conference championships at dot, 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 dot. So if you're not doing that, and your NIL pot is not what it needs to be, if you're at the Big Ten level, it's going to be hard to get guys who are going to keep you competitive. Those two guys, I mean, can they get to the NCAA tournament with just those two guys and what they have? Sure, of course they can. But it is not going to be easy, because the Big Ten is not going to be easy to navigate. Because, I mean, we didn't even talk about teams like, we didn't even talk about a team like Indiana. Indiana has a ton of talent. They're not playing very well either. Iowa is very good. That, we didn't say anything about them. Hell, Nebraska is pretty good.
And they got the mayor coach in there, I think.
There's a ton of teams in the Big Ten just like those guys. And how are you going to navigate them to a point where you can get into the tournament?
Yeah, and I'll close on Rutgers with this. Rutgers is currently 17 in the Big Ten standings. I know what you're saying. How are you going to have 17, 18 teams in the Big Ten? But that's another story. And only the top 15 teams, Robert, make the Big Ten tournament. So you've got two lottery picks, and you're in a position right now that you would even make the tournament. That's the definition of underperforming. So I didn't say you had to win the Big Ten, but man, you should be good enough to
you don't
make
even
the
make the tournament. I mean,
yeah, that's a tough one. All right, our main story of the week, though: Mick Cronin, head coach of UCLA, has not had a good week or two. He went on a rant after a recent loss and called his players, quote, too soft to play hard enough. And he called them delusional in 2025. He's frustrated with his players. He's frustrated with his staff. Then he got tossed out of the next game, and it just doesn't seem to be working out for him. Robert, I've sent a couple of things for you to review. Didn't know if you saw him on the media, newspaper, news cycle. Just just doing it wrong right now. Any thoughts or advice for Mick Cronin right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you get in your head to the place where you think in this day and age that doing that to your players is going to be helpful. Uh, that's not. I mean, he's gone off the deep end. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they suspend him. It wouldn't shock me if they fire him halfway through the season. That's not a UCLA thing, typically. That's not something UCLA basketball will do. But I mean, he's that's how you lose your team, and you know that as a former coach. That's you call your guys out in public like that. That's how you lose your team. And
Yeah.
I that I'm not quite sure how it'll, how badly it'll end, but it's not going to end well.
So for me, I think there's a lot of frustration both in front of the scenes and behind the scenes, and you also have the real life tragedy that's going on in terms of the fires in Los Angeles. So as an administrator, I would call them in and say, we can't do that. We can't do that. So now I've let you know we can't do that. I also heard a lot of I in his conversations. That always gives me pause because heck, one of the critiques I get in interviews is I'm too collective because that's kind of how we're hardwired and so forth in coaching and in teaching. But in his situation, uh, avoid I, tone that down because your kids are going through stuff too, and just focus on winning ball games. You can't get too high, can't get too low, and yeah,
I
you
mean,
need to chill out a little bit.
they're talented.
Yes,
They're going to be fine as long as you don't do that.
don't do that.
Don't do
I don't
that.
know what you can do, but don't do
Yeah,
that.
don't do that.
All
Don't
right,
do that. So before we move on, because you didn't I want to go back to your mid majors list for just a minute,
go
right?
ahead.
So you had Gonzaga, Utah State, Memphis, San Diego State, and St. Mary's.
According to the net rankings, those are the teams that are highest ranked mid majors, quote unquote.
All good teams. So we're recording this on Sunday. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, yesterday in the Mountain West, San Diego State went to New Mexico and got thumped. And Boise State went to Utah State. Utah State hits a three with 7 seconds left, down two to go ahead, makes the free throw because the kid got fouled and wind up winning 81-79. So San Diego State might be fourth in the on your mid majors list, but they are also fourth in the Mountain West Conference right
All
now.
right. So
So
now the net rankings, not
I
me.
know, but you got, just that and the timing is not convenient for you being an East Coast guy, but that's a league to watch because we didn't even talk about. I mean, Nevada's always going to be good because Steve Alford is a good coach. They're always going to be good, and we didn't even talk about them.
Good, man.
So
So, fans, this is what we're looking for in March as your brackets come out. That's why we have correspondents across the country. So, yes, the net sometimes gets it wrong because Maryland has a pretty high ranking in the net right now. But with that being said, in segment 3, again, I'm glad I have Robert here. There was a situation that happened with Rutgers women's basketball. It's kind of personal to me. I want to kind of talk it out with my favorite administrator. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Safe Project today. Welcome back to the iCoaches Podcast in segment 3, Women's Net Rankings. South Carolina, Texas, UConn. Good win over Georgetown, UConn. UCLA and Notre Dame. Mid-majors, Richmond, Harvard, St. Joe's, San Diego State, and Princeton, who I think just beat Harvard, or somebody in a close matchup. Teams to watch this week, watch Washington. Keep an eye on them, see what's going on there. But our story of the week, Rutgers freshman guard Keomi McMiller was strangely benched without much explanation. So as I've mentioned on previous shows, Keomi's mother went to my high school, Paint Branch High School. I know her and the family very well, and they're all good people, and I root for former students. Paint Branch basketball is a beautiful family. When we won the state championship in 2000, 25 years ago, wow, we got to do something to get the guys together. They were the closest group of teams I've ever seen, the boys, the girls, and to this day, that group is a close-knit group of young adults, family people, and so forth. So with that, let me give you some background. McMiller was the first high school player to sign an NIL deal with Jordan. She's not good. She's great. She's pro potential all over the place. After Rutgers lost to Maryland, they played at Maryland. So it was her return. She's from Silver Spring, Maryland. Didn't have the best game. She struggled in limited minutes, committed 7 first half turnovers, probably trying to do too much. And she just wasn't efficient. Head coach Coquise Washington said after the game that it was not injury related, as why she only got X amount of time and didn't play the final 15 minutes of the game. And you know, Robert, she probably had a lot of friends in the stands, a lot of supporters and so forth. So now there seems to be a divide with McMillan and her circle, which is always a pause. And it became publicly apparent when she posted on Instagram hours before a game against USC and Juju Watkins that she was not going to play. Also, members of her representation, Leonard Ellerby, to be specific, is a part of her executive team. And according to a press release, he had mentioned that, in his opinion, the situation should have been handled differently. The coach said, we're going to keep the specifics and everything internal, as she should. Moving forward, to our knowledge right now, she hasn't played yet since these incidents. Robert, as an administrator, this came across your desk. What's your reaction to what's come across your desk?
So first of all, let's point out two things that are ridiculous at face value. Okay. Number one, okay, this game, USC at Rutgers, is a conference game. That's ridiculous. Okay. The second thing is we're talking about an 18-year-old kid, supremely talented or not, who has a management team. You know, that's problematic in and of itself, and her team probably could have advised her, hey, don't post before the game that you're not playing, because that just kind of stirs stuff up. Maybe that's what she was after. I don't know. But yeah, that whole thing, that clearly is not going well. And kudos to the coach for keeping it, internal, because it doesn't appear that her team is going to choose to keep it internal. And her family. I don't know them at all, but I mean, this is a symptom of what we've talked about many times with NIL and that kind of stuff, because you know what's going to happen here is if she finishes the season, which she may not at this point, if she finishes the season, she will go in the portal and someone will pay her an immense amount of money to come and play basketball for them. Heck, maybe she come back to Maryland. I don't know. I don't know if Brenda Freeze will put up with that either. I'm thinking not. Um, but yeah, this is kind of how those things go. And I don't know this kid, but maybe she's being a little snot. Maybe she needs to sit because she's not doing the thing she needs to do. Maybe she's coming late to stuff. Maybe she's not showing up for study hall. Maybe she's not playing hard in practice. We don't know.
All correct. Um, I, as a coach, have had to deal with challenging situations. I, as a coach, have had to deal with, in my day and age, which I actually can say now, there were some AAU coaches who had some questions about playing style and touches and things like that. And you're like, no, we're not doing that. But it's also in a day that social media wasn't prevalent. So now coaches today have more to deal with. I was recently with several of my former players who are all coaches at different schools. And, the consensus, Robert, was this is hard. And one of the things we
Yeah.
say on the show when we talk about coaching before we do anything is say, first of all, this is hard. And when people just think anybody can coach, if it was just about the game, anybody could do it. But now you're dealing with management teams, you're dealing with all of that. So this is where we give advice. Pause, pause. Have conversations, not confrontations, and keep everything to the best of your ability within the house. So if we're giving advice, and again, I love the family, and everyone knows that. It's less is more, um, and focus on the now in terms of can we play better? Because right now Rutgers is 0-5 in conference play, and only the top 15 teams make the tournament. So put these small goals ahead, and I'm hoping she comes back, and I'm hoping everything's a life lesson. But yeah, that was tough, and I'm glad I have our favorite administrator here to kind of walk us through it. And yeah, management teams. A little pause by that, but
That cannot be helpful. Cannot.
yeah, wonderful way of saying it. It cannot be helpful. All right. So at the conclusion of the college football playoffs, we're
Because
gonna go ahead,
hang on,
Robert.
hang on one second. And it's not helpful because if for no other reason, and you and I both know this as school people, coach can't talk to them. Coach can't talk to mom.
No, FERPA.
Coach can talk to the kid because the kid is an adult. So all this other stuff, you know, coach can only talk to the kid. And coach is only obligated to talk to the kid. Even if the kid says, "Hey, I want you to talk to my management team." No, we're only talking to you. I
Yeah.
mean, again, management team can't be helpful.
No, no, it can't be helpful. All right. So as we get to the conclusion of the college football playoffs, we will make our annual move over the next couple of weeks to having college basketball talk move to Thursday. So after Notre Dame, Ohio State, and we do that recap towards the end of January, early February, we move college basketball talk to Thursdays, and we keep all NBA and WNBA talk on Wednesdays. Robert said it best last week. It's almost time to start watching. So we're going to start watching more. So on behalf of our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student athlete academic progress, to improving student athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA SAVE project provides wraparound services for student athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.